Hello everybody, my name is Diego Vasquez, and in this presentation we will discover some information about JSON, about what is JSON, why JSON is important for us as programmers, and or why JSON is important in the programming world, and I will share some examples on how to use JSON in JavaScript and how to receive data in JSON format and apply that in a web page or an application that maybe we have. So firstly, what is JSON? JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So this means that it has a lot of similarities with JavaScript. It's a subset of JavaScript, but it's important to know that JSON is language independent. So this means that it's not dependent of a programming language, right? But as I mentioned, it has like some similarities for the conventions that exist in the programming languages like JavaScript, C, C++, C Sharps, and Java. It is important to know that JSON, like the definition is like a lightweight data exchange format. So it is really important to know this information is important in the programming world because we know that sometimes we will need, or most of the time, we will need to receive or to send information, to get information from user, to store that information in a database, and we can use that using JSON, like using JSON format, right? Also, JSON is commonly used in APIs and configurations. So sometimes when we receive information from the APIs, most of the time we will receive that in a JSON file or in JSON format. Sometimes maybe we will receive it in another type of format. But that brings me to my last point, that JSON, it is really easy to write and read. And right now, we'll discover about the syntax that JSON uses. So the data is represented in key value pairs or name value pairs. This can be recorded like in an object, as you can see here, and also that I mentioned here that the curly braces hold objects. So we can store our information in objects. We can store our information, as you can see here, also in arrays. But we always have to respect that JSON is structured in key value pairs. That is maybe the greatest benefit that we can obtain from JSON, right? Of course, we can have like a file with just like one word in like a story in a JSON file, but that won't be like really useful, right? We use this type of format when we want to send, when we want to store, when we want to receive information. And also something really important is that, for example, if I had here maybe like only this key value pair, only name, it is not necessary, it is not correct to add a comma if we only have like a pair, a key value pair or name value pair. But if we have more than one key value pair, we have to use commas to separate everything, right? If we don't do that, we will receive an error. So our JSON will be incorrect. Also, it is important to mention that the last key value pair doesn't have to have a comma. And as I mentioned, the square brackets hold the arrays and the curly braces hold the objects. So JSON, we can have different values. Well, the values can have different data types in JSON. So the types that are hold in JSON values are strings that have to be enclosed in double quotes. Also numbers, so these can be integers, negative numbers, floating point numbers, scientific notation numbers. It can hold booleans like true or false values, right? Arrays like a collection of strings or numbers, or a collection of objects. Also, it can have objects. It can have objects inside objects, and also it can have null, right? And the types that cannot be a value are functions, a date, or an undefined. And also, to continue, I have here some examples, some basic examples of files or objects in JSON format. So as you can see, it's really related. It's close to the syntax that we use in JavaScript when we build an object. But in JavaScript, the keys doesn't have like the keys don't have these double quotes, right? Only the values. So for example here, you can see the example here that the address hold an object. The hobbies is like an array of objects that has some information, also organizing key value pairs. And also here is another example of a laptop that has a product ID, a number, the price. It also has a boolean that says that if this laptop is in stock of an store or not, and it has some reviews and the rating, right? But right now I will share with you some examples on how to use JSON and what is JSON used also. For example, here I have my Visual Studio Code open, and if you see here, this is the JSON setting of the format that we have, right, for settings that is stored in JSON. So it is this archive that is in JSON format that holds some information about the settings that we have in our Visual Studio Code. For example, if you can see here, you will notice, you will see that my editor has a font family of Firecode. It has another boolean values, the ligatures, the weight, the cursor blinking. So this is a way that we can store it and that we can have our information or we can store and we can send the information, right? So for example here, let me have an example that I will build on how to write JSON and how to see that JSON, some methods that are really important. And I have the example just right here. I will show that to you. So for example here, as you can see, this maybe you can think, oh yes, this is a JSON, right? But here with these icons, this part here represent that is a string, right? So if we have or if we receive information like that is not a JSON, it's like a JSON string, we can have, and we have some methods in JavaScript to transform, to convert that string to a JSON format. So for example here, I have here the information and I can change that. So for example, I can just say, I will show you in the console. I have here that will be, we will use this method that's called parse, JSON.parse, and that will have my info there. So this information, like another JSON, and I will save it and I will share that to you on the browser. Give me 1 second. So here we have the browser. We can see here in our console that is an object, and there it has the address, it has a name, and it has the array of objects. And the same applies maybe if we have the JSON, right? So but here, instead of parsing that string to a JSON format, we'll be converting that JSON format to a string. So you will notice that change in the browser. So you can see it here. It's a string. It's not in a JSON format, JSON object, right? So also, and with this I will finish my presentation, I will show to you like how to use JSON to get information and to apply that information to a page, right? So this I name it like JSON test, but I will be using an API that has information about countries to get the name of some countries and to put that into a list in here. So I already have the code. This is a little bit long. It's not that long, but I have it here and here. So here the first thing that I did was just creating a list, an array that is countries, that is the name, and I have I stored here I get the element of the list, the HTML. I have a function to show and to create an item, a list item with the name, the official name of each country. And here is the awesome part of JSON and how we receive information, right? So for example, here I use a synchronous function. I use the fetch API also, and here is the API that I'm using, REST countries. So this API, and I will show that to you, will give me this whole JSON. So as you can see, it's a list. It's a start with the square bracket, so it's a list, a JSON array. An array. So yes, it has a lot of information, but I only want to get the name, the official name of the country, right? So the first step was storing that response that we received from the API. We check if that response is okay, if we don't have like any error, and later we stored again that response, because we only have the response like saying like, oh, okay, this is valid, right? But we have to convert that response to JSON. So in this case, you will notice that I'm not using JSON parse or JSON stringify, because those methods are synchronous. So that means that they follow an order, right? But in this case that I am getting the information from an API, it has to be asynchronous. So that is a difference in why I'm using .json. So because this method is asynchronous, right? And later I store that data into the countries, and I pass that list that I have to my function, right? But for example, if you want to see the response that I receive here, so for example, I will show that to the console log, social data. So there. Oh, sorry, I haven't opened that yet. So as you can see, I already have the list there with the countries, and I will show the data that I received. So as you can see, I receive an array that has a lot of information inside here. And well, I hope that this presentation will help you to understand some important information about JSON and how to apply this information in your applications. Thanks for being here, and if you have questions, I will be available to answer everything. Bye.